Welcome to my guide on the budget Skelemancer. The Skelemancer has an odd playstyle compared to other builds because instead of just using damage spells or attacking, it relies on summons and its Mercenary to do the killing for him. Then it just nukes everything with Corpse Explosion. So the main strengths for this build, the main obvious one is that it has insane AoE from Corpse Explosion. Seriously, you just blow up the whole screen in one go once it's leveled up and you get some plus skills from your items. It's pretty wild and easily the most fun part about playing this build. The second strength that it has, the Curses tree. The Curses tree is filled with skills that only need 1 point to be useful, which is amazing for the Necromancer. And finally, it's a pretty safe build because you have access to summons. You're going to have Clay Golem, Skeletons, and Revives, as well as a Mercenary to help tank for you. And that's on top of the curses that I was just mentioning too. Unfortunately, the build does have a few weaknesses. The main obvious one is that with this build, there isn't actually a built-in damage skill. So you're relying purely on your Mercenary and your summons to get the first corpse, and then once you get the first corpse, then you can do your damage with Corpse Explosion. But before that, you do have a Poison and Bone spells skill tree, but with this build you're not putting any points in anything aside from Corpse Explosion and 1 point into Teeth. So you're not the one doing the damage, and you're going to have to wait for your Mercenary and your summons to do it for you. Aside from that, this build also lacks mobility. Necromancers in general don't actually have any tools to help them move around. No burst of speed, no teleport, nothing like that. So you're mostly just going to be running to where you need to go. And then, as I'm going to talk about a little later, if you need to reposition your army of summons, then you can use your teleport staff to reposition. But yeah, there's no inbuilt tools that allow you to reposition your army and help you get from place to place more quickly. Also, when you have your minions, their AI isn't very reliable. Like, usually they'll target whatever monsters are closest to them when they get into a fight, but the monsters tend to wander around quite a bit, so a lot of the time they're going to focus different targets. Ideally, you want all of your summons to be hitting one target so you can get the first corpse as quickly as possible. Then you can just cast amp damage and then Corpse Explosion. But in order to do this, again, you need your teleport staff so that you can reposition everybody close by on one specific monster that you want to kill. Anyway, I just want to say quickly, I've seen players refer to this build as being boring to play, because you're usually waiting for your summons to do the killing. Now, you can just sit there and wait, but to be honest, if you want to play a Skelemancer well, you have to pay attention to a lot of different things, like which curses you want to use, or what you need to resummon during a fight. Because sometimes your summons will die, and then, of course, you're going to need to bring them back. Seriously, the Skelemancer can be a really fun build to play, especially because of how satisfying Corpse Explosion is to use. It's definitely worth a shot if you've never tried this build before, and if you're new to the game even, just having skeletons alone is actually much easier than some of the other builds that are available in the game as well. So that's what I'm going to say introducing the Skelemancer in this case. Now let's get to some of the fun parts for this character. For stats and skills, I'm going to start off by putting points into strength. I like to have 70 strength for this character so that you can wear your equipment early on. The item that's going to have the highest strength requirement is going to probably be your boots. I'm going to be shopping for greaves later, and that has a 70 strength requirement, so we're going to have 70 strength here. No points in the dex. This build that I'm showing you isn't using... Well, I mean, it's going to be using a shield, but it's not relying on block chance at all. So we're not going to need dex, and obviously we don't need the attack rating. Now, for vitality and energy, most guides are going to say that you should just dump your remaining points into vitality. Personally, I like to have 50 points, or I like to put 50 points into energy. It gives me a bit of extra mana to work with because Corpse Explosion is very mana intensive, and also when I'm summoning skeletons without any additional equipment or any mana potions, because, you know, this character is completely naked, yeah, having some points in energy will allow me to get all the summons that I actually need without running out of mana. So 50 points into energy, and then of course you can put the rest of the points into vitality. Besides, your summons are the ones who should be fighting, not you, so you shouldn't need a ton of life. Like, yeah, having some is helpful in case a stray monster comes and hits you, but typically you should be in the back lines and letting your summons and your mercenary do most of the fighting. One thing I forgot to actually mention at the start of this before I did the stats and skills, again, this is a level 75 character, like with most of my other budget build videos. Starting it off level 75, assuming that you haven't used any of the stat points or the skill points, and that you've done all of the skill point quests, as well as Anya. So, yeah, maybe you got like a rush or something and you want to make a necromancer, or like a skelemancer, sunmancer, whatever you want to call it, but you don't really know where to allocate the points. So that's kind of the what we're going for here. And also, as you can see, we have no gear, which ties into what I was saying just now with putting points in energy, because if I didn't put points in energy, then I wouldn't be able to summon all of my skeletons without running out of mana, since I don't have any additional gear or mana potions on hand right now. So anyway, speaking of skills, now we get to the really fun part. Obviously the Skelemancer build, well, the core of the build is going to be Raised Skeleton and Skeleton Mastery, so you're going to want to max these out, obviously. Raised Skeletons is self-explanatory. You know, this is, well, this raises skeletons. The more points you put into it, the more damage they get, attack, defense, life, and the total number of skeletons you can summon at any given time also increases. This also boosts life and damage, and it also helps boost the damage and life for revives, but I am not going to put nearly as many points into revive. I'm only going to be putting 1 point into revive and its prerequisites. I'm going to be relying on plus the skills to boost this, because the majority of your damage is going to come from skeletons, and revives are nice to have as support, but revives tend to be a little bit dumber than skeletons. They wander around all over the place. They have a tendency of wandering off and just dying, because revived monsters have a leash range. Like, yeah, if they stray too far from you, they'll automatically just unsummon themselves, I guess. And also they have a duration of 3 minutes, whereas the skeletons are... Well, the skeletons will last for as long as they can stay alive, or very occasionally they might exceed the leash range. Like if you run really, really far and then the skeletons lag um, far behind, I think that causes them to despawn as well. So yeah, those are that's basically it for a revive and its prerequisites. I also put 1 point into Clay Golem, Golem Mastery, and Summon Resist. This is pretty self-explanatory, I think. Summon Resist helps all of your summons. Clay Golem is going to be your reusable meat shield. Now right now it only has 343 health, but as you get more gear, even something like a Spirit Sword will boost Clay Golem as well as Golem Mastery and bring this Clay Golem up to 1,000 life, which is plenty for you to use just as a meat shield, and you can always just resummon it. So yeah. Okay, so that's for the summoning skills tree. Next up is going to be the curses tree, or as I like to call it for the necromancers, the tree of 1 point wonders. So here you need 1 point into amp, decrep, as well as its prerequisites, and attract with its prerequisites. Now, you could also put a point into Iron Maiden Life Tap as prerequisites for lower resist. I don't personally bother with lower resist because this is mostly like lower resist is useful if you're going to be playing with a group of other people who actually use elemental spells or skills or whatever. But if you're just going to be MFing solo, then the majority of your damage is going to come from physical damage off of your summons. So you're going to want to use amplify damage most of the time. And occasionally, if you want to lock down a boss, then you would use Decrepify. But yeah, if you want to have lower res in your back pocket, that's perfectly fine. There's no real issue there. And then we have the poison and bone skills. So teeth is a prerequisite for corpse explosion. You're definitely going to need corpse explosion. This is, again, one of the most important parts of the build. Like I mentioned before, the core skills are Raise Skeleton and Skeleton Mastery, but this is going to be your... Well, this is going to be your main farming tool, I guess, because while these skeletons are getting the kills, this thing blows up entire screens worth of monsters, as I'm going to show you later on. So I like to max out Corpse Explosion. The damage doesn't change on Corpse Explosion, but the radius does. The more, well, yeah, the higher the Corpse Explosion level, the larger the blast radius. And then you're going to want to put 1 point into Bone Armor and 1 point into Bone Wall. And I'll explain why later, or I'll demonstrate why later, but just very briefly, Bone Wall is excellent for hurting monsters, which is going to be super useful when we farm cows. Again, I'll demo that a little later, but yeah, just make sure you have a point into Bone Wall. So yeah, with the remaining 9 points, at this point, I'm just going to dump it right into Amplify Damage to increase the radius. Again, damage taken is always going to be plus 100%, meaning that whenever you amplify damage on a monster, it reduces their physical resistance by 100%. Unless they're immune, then it'll break it, or it'll work at only a fifth what it normally does. But anyway, don't worry about that so much here, because we're not really going to be farming anything that's physical immune, so no biggie. You can see here the radius on Amplify Damage is 8 yards, the radius on Corpse Explosion is 9 yards, and again, like I mentioned before, if I really wanted to, I could go lower res, but yeah, this is basically our core skills for this build. Okay, so next up, now that we have our skills, we need to get our equipment, because this character is butt naked. In order to get the equipment, we're going to be relying on getting that gear from vendors, and in order to buy the gear from vendors, we need to get gold. Now, the easiest way to get gold is by doing Nightmare Eldritch runs, so I'm going to show that in a second. At least starting out anyway. Later on, when you have more gear, you can easily do Hell Eldritch. I'm going to show more about that in a bit. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, great. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do. Oh, I should have talked about that first, actually. So you see that I immediately went to Act 5, and I'm taking the Anya portal. Again, I'm assuming that the Anya quest, that you completed it because you wanted the Scroll of Resistance from Mala. But one of the other things that happens as a result of saving Anya is that you get the red portal to Nilithak's temple. And that's where you can summon a bunch of skeletons from, because there's a bunch of corpses lying there. They eventually get up and ambush you, but otherwise you can just use them as fodder for skeletons while they're just lying there. So, yeah, I would strongly recommend that you do not close this portal. The portal closes if you do the Nilithak quest and you have the Halls of Pain waypoint. I don't know if they're going to change that when Diablo 2 Resurrected comes out, but just know that, yeah, like, you need that portal to get your initial skeletons, so make sure that you leave that open if you're going to be farming, and while you don't have a strong enough merc. So, yeah, got our army of skeletons. You can see here, 1/2 damage, it's the whole pack. And then, once one of these guys dies, kaboom, that's it. Look at that. 2 corpse explosions, they're all just dead. And then I can just gather up all this. Yeah, and that's basically it. It's a very simple playstyle. Again, if you're newer to the game, there's not really much you have to know mechanically here. You just basically go in, you summon your skeletons. There you go. And then you go into a fight, and then you get amp damage and corpse explosion. That's basically the rotation. Granted, I'm just showing this for Nightmare at the moment. When you start doing runs of, or when you actually start farming Hell, you're going to need to be more attentive about using the right skills at the right time. Because I have a whole bunch of other skills too. Things like Attract, Decrepify, Bone Wall, even Clay Golem. I actually forgot to cast Clay Golem. That's actually my bad, but yeah, you're gonna need all these tools when you start farming Hell, especially with budget gear. So, yep. Now here, I'm demoing how the build plays out when you kill Eldritch, but I'm also picking up items. I'm picking up items that I can sell. You see the Clay Golem there died. That's because I don't actually have enough points into it. Yeah, you can see that I'm picking up all these items here. And now that I have a full inventory, I can proceed to try and sell it to Mala, and then I can use the gold from these items to start buying the things that I need. So here, I'll show you what I mean. Scimitar, Trident. Okay, so here's the thing. Eldritch just happened to give me fairly low amounts of gold with this haul. I think I did like 3 runs, and he only gave me about 26k. Normally, I do enough Eldritch runs to get myself 100,000, and then 100,000 is usually enough to buy everything that I need. yeah, usually 100,000 gold takes like 5 to 10 runs of Eldritch. It doesn't take that long. But yeah, once I have everything I need, I go and talk to the vendor. Or once I have the gold that I need, then I can talk to the vendor, in this case Anya, so that we can start shopping for belt, boots, and gloves. Um, Something else that I want to mention quickly, and I'll go in greater detail about this later. Actually, I can sell this too in a second. But yeah, something I want to mention that I'm going to go in greater detail later. When you do the Anya quest, or sorry, rather, some of the quests in the game will give you a reward when you complete them. When you free Anya, she gives you an item, a class-specific item for you, whatever character that you're playing. So in this case, I haven't yet redeemed the reward for saving her. Here you can see I actually get like a necro shrunken head, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I could.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this one's not particularly useful, but I can sell it for gold. That's another way to make gold too, to buy the items that you need. But sometimes you get some pretty cool shrunken heads. Yeah, like this one, for example. I got this one a little earlier when I was, I was just experimenting a little bit. Yeah, something like +3 to raise skeleton, +2 to raise skeleton, +1 or 2 to necro skill levels, that kind of thing on shrunken heads from the reward that Anya gives you. That can be really nice, actually. Normally, when I do these videos, I'll say that for your shield, you should go complete Act 5's Quest 2, Rescue on Mount Ariat, so that you can get Ralord Tal as the reward, and then you can make the Runeward Ancient's Pledge in a shield for all resistances. But with the Necro, you can kind of skip that and go straight for whatever reward Anya gives you if you actually do get a good shrunken head. And I'm going to check the Nightmare and the normal quest rewards in a second, but first I would like to shop for belt, boots, and gloves. Okay, here's a really nice one actually, 21 MF gloves. Again, here's one difference between me playing the Skelemancer versus another caster build. With my other caster builds, I usually prefer having resistances, but with the Skelemancer, I like to get MF because I don't usually need the resistances anyway, since my skeletons and my merc do the tanking. So here we have Greaves of Speed with 30 faster on walk, but I would ideally like to get 40s. Yeah, I'm also looking for, well, okay, I already have a set of gloves. I'm looking also for a belt.
Good morning.
Actually, come to think of it, I don't think Anya can spawn with a belt. I think it's Larzuk that I need to talk to for that.
Yes?
But anyway, yeah, I'm looking for 40 faster on walk boots. I'm gonna try to refresh the shop a couple more times. If I can't find it, then oh well. We can just pretend these are 40s. But yeah, usually I stick around and I roll the shop until I get 40 faster on walk boots. Sometimes it can even spawn with resistances, but yeah, usually I expect that it's just going to be plain 40 faster on walk boots. If you really want, you could try to keep shopping until you find 40 faster on walk boots that have a second modifier, or like a set of resistances, but I don't have the patience for it, especially because you're likely going to be switching out your 40 faster on walk boots for something better at some point anyway. Something like Alder's boots, or something like Wartrav's at some point. So yeah, let's just use the 30s for now. That's fine. Then we can talk to Larzuk.
What do you need?
because we need a belt. Now, you need a plated belt, of course. Plated belt is a belt that has 4 rows of potion slots. That's the most important part. But ideally, you want to have a plated belt that has plus to life.
At your service.
So you can. Just gonna do a few more rerolls. And eventually, I should get a belt with plus to life. Yeah. This is. Oh, there you go. Oh, wait, no. It has strength requirement of 110 because it's a war belt instead of a plated belt.
At your service.
While you do this, you're going to want to keep your eyes peeled for a merc weapon as well. I'm going to talk about that a little later, but you might want to look for a merc, like a halberd for an Act 2 merc that has good damage. Maybe if it's like an exceptional base of some kind with +2 enhanced damage, that would be ideal. But again, I'll talk about that a little later. Anyway, yeah, let's just use this for now. Normally I would go for a belt that has plus to life, but I don't seem to have very good luck with shopping today for this video, so whatever. We'll just work with this for now. Okay, so we have our boots, our belt, and our gloves. This is the really starter equipment. Next up, we're missing our armor and helm, so where would we get those? Well, we would go to normal, and we would talk to Charcy, because she can sell 2-socket armors and 2-socket helms. And again, same story, you would just refresh, leaving town, coming back, and then eventually, given enough tries, she'll eventually have like a 2-socket armor available. And a 2-socket cap. Now I have one here just to speed up the process. In the 2-socket armor, you're going to want to make stealth. That's Tal and F. You would get these runes from normal Countess, especially the Eth rune. The Tal rune you can find from the Freeing the Barbarians quest in Act 5. But again, you won't be able to find the Eth rune unless you actually go and farm for it. So the easiest place to get it would be just to do some normal difficulty Countess runs, and eventually you should get an Eth rune, and then you can make your stealth rune word Tal Eth. There you go. And if you can't, or if you're lazy to find it from normal Countess, then, well, maybe you can find it, if you're playing like online play or something, then Eth runes are pretty common, so this isn't a very difficult rune word to make at all. Very low level, but gives you faster run walk, faster cast rate, faster hit recovery. The big thing that you want here is faster run walk. Faster cast rate's also really nice. You get your skeletons up faster, and you can spam Corpse Explosion and your curses a little bit more quickly. But the faster run walk helps you get around much more easily, which is nice. Later on down the line, you're probably going to want to switch out stealth for something that has plus to all skills or plus to necro skills. Something like Skin of the Viper Magi, or Skulders, or if you're feeling particularly crazy, you can go for the Bone Rune Word. That is Soul I believe, which gives you 2 to necro skills, I think like plus 150 to mana or something like that, and like 30 all res. So yeah, just a couple options that you can have for your armor and its upgrades, but for now you start off stealth. And then for your helm, you can get Ort and Soul to make the Lore Rune Word, which gives the bonuses that you can see here. So yeah, Ort Rune and Soul Rune are a little bit tougher to come by than Tal Eth. You can't get a Soul Rune from normal Countess. You actually are going to need to find that from running either normal cows or nightmare cows. I'm not going to do a normal cow run in this video, but yeah, you can totally just run normal cows. It's pretty easy with Corpse Explosion and your summons. And then maybe if you do like 5 to 10 runs, you can get a Soul Rune and an Ort Rune. Or maybe more than that. I mean, RNG is always, well, it always varies. So, anyway, speaking of running normal cows, one of the other things that you can run normal cows for uh, are the runes necessary to make spirit, as well as the spirit base, in this case a broadsword. So Tal, Thul, Ort, and Am in a broadsword, uh, yeah, that makes spirit. You get all the bonuses that you see here. Where do you like? You can't actually get a 4-socket broadsword from normal cows directly, but you can get a broadsword that has 0 sockets, and then you would go use the Larzuk quest. Uh, Act 5, Quest 1, you need to kill Shank, and then you can uh, roll an item for max sockets. Now, here's the thing. You can make Spirit into a... Or you can use the Larzuk quest on a broadsword from normal cows and a crystal sword from normal cows, but if you're getting like a crystal sword from uh, Nightmare or Hell, the item level on a crystal sword would be a lot higher, so uh, it you wouldn't be able to Larzuk it. Anyway, that's just a detail that I'm throwing out there because there are some people who do try to use the Larzuk quest on crystal swords and they end up with 6 sockets, so just be careful about that if you're going to make Spirit into a crystal sword and you're going to try to roll sockets. You need to be mindful of whether or not you got it from normal or one of the higher difficulties. Anyway, so yeah, Spirit Sword's pretty good. If for some reason you don't have access to
I am a cop. You have
okay,
the order.
yeah, if for some reason you don't have access to ladder runewords, if you're playing like single player without pluggy on the original Diablo 2, you can also shop for wands at Akara in Hell difficulty. I know I'm in normal right now, but yeah, you can kind of see that she sells wands, and there's other vendors too that sell wands, but some of the wands that you can get can have like plus to summoning skills and plus to necro skill levels. You can also get these wands as a temporary weapon until you find the base for spirit and the runes for it. So there's a few options for you. But what if, for example, you don't have a Larzuk quest? Like, what if, you know, you have Tal, Thul, or Am, and, you know, you could get a 0-socket broadsword, and, but you don't have a Larzuk quest to pop sockets into it? Well, if you don't have the Larzuk quest, your easiest bet to find a spirit, or like a base for spirit, would probably be running Nightmare Cows. A 4-socket broadsword or 4-socket crystal sword can drop from Nightmare Cows, so that's an option. And again, if you have your summons and you have Corpse Explosion, then Nightmare Cows is a cakewalk, as I'm going to show you later. So there you go. That's kind of covering your weapon for the Skelemancer. Yeah, so shield. Or we're missing a shield. I already talked a little bit about this earlier. I mentioned how you can do the Anya quest. Or sorry, you can get Ancient's Pledge by doing Act 5 Quest 2, and then getting Ral or Tal from Kolkek, and then going to get a large shield from Farah. But as you play through the game, you probably will find a Necro Shrunken Head, or like a Necro Head of some sort that gives you plus to skills, or plus to like raise skeleton or something, and if you don't, then You
Yes,
have
that
Anya
will.
quest in normal, nightmare, and hell, where she'll give you, yeah, like look at this one, right? This one's plus poison and bone skills. Helps your corpse explosion, but it would have been better if it were plus 2 summoning. But anyway, this is just an example of the kinds of shrunken heads that you can get. Um, so yeah, I got one from normal. I think I got the one from hell, so let's go grab the one from nightmare as well.
You have.
And yeah, unfortunately this one wasn't very useful either. Um, but yeah, like you can kind of see some of the potential shrunken heads that you can get in place of Ancient's Pledge. Um, Ancient's Pledge will give you more resistances, but I typically prefer having a Shrunken Head that gives bonuses like plus to raise skeleton or plus to summoning or plus to necro skills, because that's going to boost a lot of your skills. It's going to allow you to summon more skeletons, kind of make them do more damage, gonna increase the blast radius of your corpse explosion or the radius of your curses, etc., etc. So yeah, shrunken heads are nice. And then next up would be the rings. So where can you find rings? Well, for rings, you can get rings from doing the Cain quest. Most people will rescue Cain so that he can ID their items, or so that you can go into Tristram and get Wurtzleg. But um, if you go to Akara
I am. You have.
after rescuing Cain, she'll give you a ring. Oh, look at that! That's an excellent ring. Well, I mean, it's not like a GG tradable ring, but you know, it's got FCR, it's got mana. That's really all you need. Like, you could also get rings that have like a lot of resistances to keep you alive, but this is pretty nice. FCR plus 46 to mana, so you can spam Corpse Explosion, your curses, and get your summons more frequently. So that's pretty cool. And then, yep, same story with Hell. Talk to Akara, she'll
You
give
have.
you a ring. This blue ring is the one I got from normal earlier too, by the way. And yeah, it's not always going to be great, but you should make sure that you do these rings if you haven't, just because you can actually get some really cool ones. Um, Also, it's not just the Cain quest, but also the Blade of the Old Religion. That's Act 3, Quest 2. Um, in order to complete that, you need to give Ormus uh, the Gidbin. So as you can see here,
You
talk to
have
Ormus.
this
I trade in the Gidbin for a ring of some kind, and yeah, look, there you go. This one actually
good to see
has
you.
2 resistances, and this is just normal difficulty, so that's kind of nice. Now let's see what we get out of Nightmare and Hell. Keep in mind, by the way, that the rewards that you get in Hell are better than the ones that you get in Nightmare, and or sorry, the rewards that you get are a higher item level than the ones you get in Nightmare, and then the items you get in Nightmare are a higher item level than what you get in normal. In other words, you can
Greetings.
expect that the rewards in Hell are probably going to just be better, generally speaking. Um, yeah, like I know one of the rewards that somebody got from, or one of the rings that somebody got from Ormus a while back was something like 10 FCR with 25 MF, which was pretty crazy for doing nothing, right? Uh, for those who, oh, you know something? I should have mentioned this earlier. Um, for those who don't know what the Blade of the Old Religion quest is, you need to go to Flayer Jungle and you need to get the Gidbin dagger. I'm not gonna go over exactly how it's done. You can look it up for yourself if you don't know, but yeah, just know that the quest reward for this Blade of the Old Religion is a rare ring. Um, and you get a rare ring from Nightmare and Hell difficulty for freeing Cain, and a magic one in normal. So, yeah, That's for rings. Next up would be the amulet here. So as you play through the game, you probably will find an amulet somewhere along the way. If for some reason you don't, you do have other options. In particular, you can just gamble for an amulet. I left myself some gold in the stash just for this. Um, yeah, like hypothetically, you might farm a bit of gold, and you might be like, okay, well, I'm going to try to gamble for a good amulet. There you go. Here's a nice one with 37 to cold res, right? Like, but let's say that you don't have a good amulet, but you have maybe a bunch of P gems. You can use the following cube recipe that I'm going to show you here. You need one of every perfect gem except for perfect skulls, and then you need an amulet, and then you cube these two things, and you get a prismatic amulet, which is plus to all resistances. Pretty handy trick. Another handy trick too is you can turn 3 magic amulets into a magic ring. Oh wow, yo, that's awesome. I can totally sub out my other ring for it if I cared for FCR. But anyway, yeah, you can turn 3 magic rings into a rare ring. Or sorry, 3 magic rings into a magic amulet, and you can turn 3 magic amulets into a magic ring. So, yeah, pretty handy cube recipe to know if you're going to be doing a bunch of gambling. But yeah, that's basically it for your amulet. And on Switch, you're going to want to have a teleport staff. Normally I would say that, oh, you can also have like a harmony if you find a co-run. No, here this isn't really negotiable. You need to reposition your army with teleport, and this teleport staff is just about the only way to do it. Like, yeah, you might find an amulet which has teleport charges, like that I guess works too, but I'm gonna assume that you don't have a teleport amulet handy that's just lying around. So the easiest way
Welcome back, stranger.
to get a teleport staff for the purposes of repositioning your army is to go to Act 2 Drognin in Hell difficulty, and then you can check his wares, run out of town, and then run back in. And you gotta make sure that you have a map where the exit is right next to Drognin, by the way. This is easy enough to do in online play, but yeah, in single player you might have to switch difficulties so you can re-roll your map to make your life a lot easier, because sometimes the exit is next to where the sewer is on my top left there. So yeah, I just got lucky that this is the right map. I would check over and over. This one has enchant. This staff has enchant, magic had teleport, and you do this a few times until you finally find, well,
Allow me to advise.
shouldn't say a few times because maybe it might take more than just a few, but yeah, you get the idea. Eventually you'll find a teleport staff. Now, you'll be able to shop for a teleport staff as early as normal Act 3 Ormus, but I would recommend talking to Drognin in Hell difficulty, because he sells teleport staves that have more charges. I think it goes up to like 48 if I'm not mistaken, from Hell Drognin. So yeah, this is the one I'm just gonna use because I already have it handy. But yeah, just know that you can shop for a better teleport staff if you care for that kind of thing. Okay, so to be honest, I've talked a lot about gearing your character up at this point, and you can see that we're fully geared with budget equipment, I guess. But it's also super important that you give your merc a good weapon, because you need him to help you get bodies for corpse explosion. So, the easiest way to do this would be to open up a cow portal next to Charcy,
Greetings.
because she sells Yeah, she sells scythes and pikes. You can open up the portal next to her and then just keep refreshing her wares like this. Oh, okay, well this is a bad roll
Good to
because
see
I
you.
happened to spawn the portal right next to the Cow King and his minions, but if you weren't there, then you would just keep running back and forth until you found an exceptional base pole arm that has plus to enhanced damage, or plus like 100 to enhanced damage or greater. That would be my recommendation anyway. Like, there's no like, it's not like a minimum requirement or anything, but that would be something like this, right? Like I prepped this ahead of time for this demo, but you can see here 146 enhanced damage plus to max damage. Yeah, something like this would be a good merc weapon. And yeah, it's pretty important to have this weapon, one that does a lot of damage, because yeah, you really need him to help you get bodies for corpse explosion. Speaking of which merc are we getting? Well, I think it's fairly obvious, but you do need an Act 2 Mercenary, just off of the fact that it's a polearm you're looking for, and you're going to be getting you're going to be grabbing one from Act 2 with with offensive from Nightmare.
What,
so
didn't you see enough action here the first
for those who don't know, that would be Might Aura, and I mean, I think it's obvious enough why you need Might Aura, but in case you don't, well, you need it to boost damage of your skeletons, as well as the Merc himself, obviously, but
I'll put that to
yeah,
good
you
use.
see here, nice little damage boost. Yeah. So, later on down the line, you might want to switch to Insight in an elite base if possible, or maybe a good exceptional base. Like if you can find something like a 4 open socket cryptic axe while you're farming, let's say, the pits, then yeah, then absolutely make Insight into it, and then your merc has insane damage, and you also get Meditation Aura. But if you were to make an Insight in like a crappy random scythe that drops from normal, then yeah, your merc's not really going to be doing much damage. Like, you would get the Meditation Aura bonus, but your merc doesn't do much damage with just a crappy low-tier Insight. So you need to be very careful about that. Also, if you're looking for a good weapon for your merc from the vendors, you don't necessarily need to go to Charcy. If you're lazy, you can also go to Larzuk,
At your service.
and then you could try to shop him as well, and then run back to the waypoint, and then go to Frigid, and then run back to Larzuk afterwards. You know, that kind of routine. So there you go. That's for getting a merc weapon. Again, I have emphasized it a few times already, but yeah, he really does need a good weapon to help you get your bodies ready for a corpse explosion. So yeah. Alright, so we've covered your own gear, we've covered your merc weapon. If you want, for decoration, you can also buy him a nice armor with plus life, or resistances or something, and same with his helm, or maybe you'll find one along the way, like this. Doesn't really matter.
I'll put that to good use.
But now let's talk about where to farm. So, where to farm early on, you have a few options. In Nightmare, you can run cows. I'm going to show you a Nightmare cow run quickly. I'm going to go run for the leg because I used my own leg when I was trying to shop with Charcy. So yeah, I'm just gonna go try to see if I can find the Tristram portal here. So just bear with me for a second. And okay, so I found the road. The portal should be around here somewhere. While I'm doing this, I'm trying to think if there's any other details that I should alert you to. So, oh, there we go. Okay, awesome. We can go and get the leg here. Yeah, I think I've covered everything up until this point. Right now, I think the main... Yeah, where's leg? I'm out of here. I think the main focus is just where you can farm. Here I'm farming nightmare cows, but if you're looking to farm hell, then some of the locations you can farm would be Eldritch, Shank, Pindle, and Pits. I'm going to talk more about that a little later. Hell cows is also possible, but I don't really recommend it while you're under-geared, or more specifically, while your merc is under-geared, because you really need your merc to get those, or get the damage necessary to kill hell cows, because those guys are beefy, very, very beefy. If you have something like an elite base insight, then I would say that, yeah, you could probably do hell cows comfortably, but until then, if your merc is using some crappy vendor item, it's probably not going to go super well. So there we go. Wirt's leg, Tome Town portal, and pop the portal. Before I go into the portal, let me actually go and get my skeletons up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can I get a 10th one? Oh yes, I can. Because I think this Necro Head is giving me plus the raised skeleton. So, what can I do here? Oh yeah, Clay Golem, that was the other thing. And we talked to Akara, just to heal up my mana, and then we go into Secret Cow level. So, yeah, typical playstyle, you just get a nice little amp damage off. As soon as one cow goes down, you amp the rest, and you start nuking everything with corpse spawn. You see how quickly they go down? Boom, dead. Okay, not a bad start. But if you want to speed things up even more, here's a nice little trick that I wanted to show, which is why I insisted on opening the cow portal here. You can go and use Bone Wall to drag cows into... Oh, and you can see here, this is what I'm talking about. My merc and my skeletons are in bad spots, so I use my teleport staff to get them out of the way. But also, my merc just popped Might Aura. Yeah, my merc just popped Might Aura, so all my skeletons are now doing way more damage. But yeah, a lot of things going on here. Like I was saying though, yeah, oh, here we go, here's a plate mail, I could throw that onto my merc. But yeah, like I was saying, Bone Wall, for some reason, seems to piss off cows. I'm not really sure why it does that. It's like monsters are going to come off screen into these Bone Walls in a second. I'm going to show you just quickly. Okay, so for some reason, not as many showed up as I was expecting, but still. Oh, Thule Rune and an amulet, nice. Let's see if this amulet's any good. Nope, it's not. But yeah, not sure why it does it, but yeah, Bone Wall is really, really, really good for hurting cows off screen. Like, it just aggroes them from really far away. Yep, you can see they're coming to the Bone Wall here. There you go. Boom. Easy. Now, what else did I want to say here? Yeah, I think that's basically it for this cow run. One other thing I wanted to show before I move on to Hell mode. so far I've been walking into the packs, but for example, one of the things you can do is you can tele-stomp onto them. I'm going to use a track so that I don't immediately get owned when I teleport in. Well, this was a bad example, they're dying too quickly. But let's say I want to hit, this cow over here. Oh yeah, here we go. App, teleport in, and then it just immediately dies. Like, once you teleport, you bring everybody with you, like, or all your summons, and also your Mercenary. So, because you bring all of them in, they're all gonna hit the same target, like the nearest monster, and they're gonna do an insane amount of damage, when all of their damage is focused on one person. And then you can just use that body for corpse explosion. So there you go. What teleport doesn't bring, of course, are bone walls. Now, you can see here bone wall has a duration of 24 seconds. Even when you teleport away from it, like, I think it does have a leash range. If you go like really, really far away, then it'll despawn. But yeah, there it is. It did despawn. But yeah, even when you teleport, the bone wall won't despawn. The reason why I'm bringing that up, why I'm emphasizing that, is because the Amazon has a skill called Decoy. When you teleport, it will despawn immediately, but with the bone wall, you don't have that drawback, so you can abuse bone wall really, really easily while you're teleporting around. Just go like this, and you can go down here if there was a path. Yeah, you could easily just let the bone wall keep dragging the cows. But anyway, you get the idea. That's basically all I have to show for this cow run. Some of the tricks that you can use when you do farm hell, but of course I'm not going to show that right now. I don't have the gear necessary to comfortably do it. You can use crowd control curses to help you for hell cows, but I still don't think that you can do it in a reasonable amount of time for it to be worth it early ladder until you get like a good weapon for your merc. So I'm just going to show you a quick rotation of places to farm. Eldritch, Shank, Pindle, and Pits are the locations that I would recommend if you're farming hell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Gonna get Clay Golem out here. I just put in. I'm just gonna. I use Attract on one of the Defiled Warriors so that they can focus him down while my skeletons do the damage. You see that? They're just dead. As soon as 1 or 2 of the Defiled Warriors dies, then you can just nuke the entire pack. Now, if you're going to be doing MFing in Hell, it's not really worth it to summon all of your skeletons and then to just run Pindle and then leave the game and then have to repeat the process. So what I'd actually recommend is farming multiple areas. Like normally I would... Second. I think I may have botched this run. Good. Yeah, that was sloppy because I was talking while I was running this. But anyway, yeah, so you want to actually run multiple areas in one game as the Skelemancer, because otherwise you do lose a lot of time. When I was playing as like a Windy Druid or as the Javazon, you know, you can just run over to Eldritch, Javelin, kill everything, and then run back to town. That's not a big deal. But with the Necro, having the summons up, you're going to want to make the most out of how long they're up for. Oh, that's kind of scary, actually. Okay, so you see I'm using a track first, so that I can get the monsters to hit that pack. And then, 2 Corpse Explosions kills the whole pack once they're all amped. And then 3 more kills Shank. So there you go, that's, again, really, really easy runs. That run of Eldritch actually worked out, but In that situation, normally I'm not supposed to teleport in like that, but yeah, it worked out, so that's fine. Like, yeah, there's a couple ways you can play this build, of course. You can teleport your pack in, or you can try to play it a little bit more carefully and walk your way in, and then let your summons go towards them. That's the safer way to do it. The last place I'm going to show for this video, we're already running quite long on this one, is pits. So let's just quickly go... Oh, that was kind of scary. Yep, so let me just find the path to pits here. I'm pretty sure this one should take me to the pits, right? Nope, this takes me to the wrong direction, unfortunately for me. Let me actually just get a few more skeletons back because a lot of mine have somehow died. Okay. Here we go. Alright, awesome. So now we're in pits, or pit level 1. So, and I see that there's a pack of this pack of monsters here is mited. So I'm gonna be very careful. This is one of those cases where I have to summon a clay golem, and I have to use attract to my advantage. Ooh, that's Rune, nice. Could use this for stealth if I didn't have one. Yeah. You see that I'm also bringing out the revives now. As soon as one of these dies, corpse explosion, everything's dead. Oh, a Dusk Shroud, awesome. See, I can now throw this on my Merc, or I could try to like roll sockets into it so that I can maybe make like a smoke or something. A few options with that. Dusk Shroud. And yeah, this is kind of how the run works. Also, I'm amped. I should probably go back to town and purge it off. But yeah, this is basically the gist of it. By the way, why Pits? In case you're not aware, Pits is a level 35 area, meaning that just about anything can drop from this location. Meanwhile, Eldritch and Shank are high-level areas, or high-ish, I guess. Same with Pindle. Those monsters can't drop everything in the game, but they're pretty convenient, easy to get to, and easy to kill in this build, so that's why I was recommending them. But yeah, this is more or less how you play the build. Kind of see nothing really to it. Just get attract. I get attract on one of the monsters, and I just amp the rest, and then I just spam corpse explosion. You can play around with some of the other curses as well, like dim vision isn't bad. You can confuse the monsters. You can decrep, and you can even cast Bone Wall here and there too if you really want to cause some problems for the monsters. But again, I just stick with the main ones that I need here. But anyway, that's pretty much everything, I think. I'm gonna end the run here. I mean, I could go through the whole pits run, but you get the general gist of it. I think I've demonstrated enough of the character that you can kind of see how the build plays more or less. So wrapping this all up, the Skelemancer is pretty strong, especially with how huge the blast radius is for Corpse Explosion. And not just that, but it's a lot of fun to play. So yeah, definitely a build worth trying. As you get better gear, the Skelemancer also is good for running other areas, but its main purpose later on is to run Hell Cows, because it completely destroys Hell Cows by using Bone Wall to herd and then just rotating amp damage with Corpse Explosion like you saw in my Nightmare Cow run. But yeah, that's just about all I've got for the Skelemancer. So this is D2D2, signing out.